Few natural disasters are as devastating as the tsunami. The word comes from the combination of the Japanese words for harbour, su, and wave, nami, and are a reference to what fishermen would see after being out on the open sea and seeing the destruction of the harbour they planned to return to. Fortunately for us, tsunamis are relatively rare events that are not nearly as frequent as many other natural disasters that occur. However, when we are unlucky enough to experience them, they bring some of the most destructive forces on the planet right to our shores. While many powerful tsunamis have rocked the shores of the continents throughout our history, including some legendary tsunamis, such as the Lituya Bay tsunamis in Alaska, or the mega tsunami formed after a meteor killed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. It's only recently, with the advent of cameras, that we have been able to fully document the destructive power of tsunamis as they happen. Many of these tsunamis occur near fault zones and are the result of powerful earthquakes caused by tectonic plate movements far below the sea. Thanks to shocking video recordings, the absolute ferocity with which they strike coastal towns and cities has been burned into the memories of many. So today, we have 5 of the biggest tsunami events ever caught on camera. The 2018 Indonesia tsunami. The first tsunami on our list is the most recent destructive tsunami that occurred just a few months ago, in September 2018. This tsunami occurred in the Sulawesi province of Indonesia and was triggered by a magnitude 7.5 earthquake that was centered in the mountain region of Donggala Regency. This was just 48 miles from the capital of the province Palu, a port city that sits on Palu Bay, at the end of the Palu River. Due to the geological layout of the bay, the earthquake triggered a massive localized tsunami that absolutely decimated the city. Take a look at the moment when this tsunami hit Palu Bay. While the tsunami was localized just to this region of Indonesia, over 2,200 people died from the vicious currents that destroyed and damaged over 70,000 buildings in the area. In the videos, you can see the shoreline become absolutely decimated, as houses are completely uprooted and torn to shreds from the immense currents. Massive mud flows and the liquefaction of solid ground around the area caused more damage even after the tsunami had subsided, even causing Balaroa, a small village with around 2,000 homes, to sink entirely into the ground. The region still remains in ruins as the local government struggles to rebuild, and thousands remain missing in the aftermath of this tragedy. As terrifying as this tsunami was, it isn't even close to the most destructive on our list. The 2010 Chile quake tsunami. On February the 27th, 2010, the second largest earthquake ever to hit Chile struck a mile off the coast of Chile at 3:30 in the morning. The massive magnitude 8.8 earthquake occurred near the same location of the 1960 Valdeviva earthquake, which remains the largest earthquake ever measured at a magnitude 9.6. Chile is one of the most seismically active locations in the world, as it exists right where the Nazca tectonic plate subducts under the South American plate. Even so, this earthquake was much larger than anything residents had experienced in 50 years. Because this earthquake took place in the dead of night, there is not much live footage available of the destruction as it happened. However, rare footage near the epicenter in Dichato and Concepcion, Chile, show the massive tsunami waves that decimated the area near the epicenter. Take a look.
Mira cómo se viene el agua, mira cómo se viene el agua. Se trajo un auto allá. Mira cómo se sale el mar. El agua está pasando para las casas. Aquí estamos encerrados. Estamos tratando de pasar. Miren. Se vino todo el agua para acá. Está todo inundado.
Terrifying tsunamis were observed all along the coast of Chile after this massive earthquake, and even generated small, non-destructive tsunamis as far away as Hawaii, California, Japan, and New Zealand. The massive displacement of water created tidal surges of up to 10 feet in height that tore into coastal towns in the area. Multiple smaller tsunamis also occurred due to the multitude of large aftershocks that occurred after the initial quake. 525 people died from this massive disaster. The earthquake itself also caused massive structural damage to multiple cities, and we will be recovering the damage that the earthquake itself caused in more extensive detail in another video. 1983 Sea of Japan earthquake. Japan is infamous for the sheer number of tsunamis that arrive upon its coasts. The namesake for this phenomenon originates from this country. Similar to Chile, Japan lies along a fault line. This fault line is part of a massive string of fault lines known as the Ring of Fire, caused by the massive Pacific Plate, converging upon other plates along the Pacific Ocean. While many people are familiar with the more recent tsunami catastrophe in Japan, few remember the May 26, 1983 Sea of Japan tsunami that was responsible for the deaths of 104 Japanese people. What makes this 1983 tsunami so interesting is that it was one of the first large tsunamis ever to be caught live on camera as it hit the shore. Take a look at some of the first tsunami footage ever collected. The tsunami waves grew up to 10 meters in some areas, with many boats and buildings along the coast being swept away. While it may not be exactly as shocking as some of the other more famous tsunami footage we see on YouTube today, this footage astounded many in the 1980s, who had up to that point only seen the aftermath of tsunamis' destructive powers, not the event as it happened. No one had camera phones at this time, so the people recording this have to have had a full camera setup, and were genuinely putting their lives at risk to capture it. This marks the first step towards a morbid fascination with tsunami footage, and natural disasters at large, that would lead to such tremendous footage being readily available and accessible around the world. 2004 Indian Ocean Boxing Day Tsunami. Now we arrive at some of the largest and most devastating tsunamis in modern history. The 2004 Boxing Day tsunami is perhaps the most infamous tsunami of modern history. A powerful magnitude 9.3 earthquake struck the west coast of northern Sumatra on the morning of December 26, 2004. This was the third largest earthquake in recorded history, and caused the entire Earth to vibrate an entire centimetre in space. This quake expelled near 1 quintillion joules of force, as 1,000 miles of the Indian plate subducted about 50 feet under the Burma plate at once. This was the largest known subduction zone rupture ever recorded, and displaced over 30 cubic kilometres of ocean water. The tsunami was generated out along this entire 1,000-mile subduction zone, and made its way towards coasts all across the Indian Ocean and beyond. The massive tsunami waves made landfall in over 14 countries, and some smaller, non-destructive tsunami waves even made it as far as Chile and Antarctica. Because of the massive size and width of the tsunami, tens of thousands of coastal communities were affected by the massive surge, which pushed as far as 5 miles inland in some areas. Waves were reported at up to 94 feet, or about 30 meters in height. Deaths directly related to the tsunami were recorded as far as Cape Town, Africa, 5,000 miles away from the epicenter of the earthquake. This tsunami has gone down as one of the most deadly natural disasters in history, and remains the deadliest natural disaster of this century. Over 227,000 people lost their lives on this day due to the sheer destructive power of these waves. Entire towns and cities were wiped off the map as the waves destroyed nearly everything in their path. With such a tragic event, it might be best to observe these next clips in silence to truly take in the scale and magnitude of these horrific events, one must hope that we may never again experience such an immense tragedy that affects so many people around the world. (2011) Tohoku Tsunami. The 2011 Tohoku Tsunami is the other most significant large-scale tsunami of the 21st century. Right behind the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, this tsunami was generated by the fourth largest earthquake in recorded history, registering at a magnitude 9.1 at its strongest. Its epicenter was 43 miles east of the Tohoku Peninsula in eastern Japan, and caused seismic effects that were hard to believe. The earthquake itself was caused by the massive Pacific plate subducting under the Honshu plate, attached to the Japanese mainland. The force of the earthquake alone shifted the mainland of Japan a whole 8 feet to the east, shifting the Earth's axis by up to 10 inches, and even sped up the rotational speed of the Earth by nearly 2 microseconds per day. Part of the reason for these massive effects was because the earthquake lasted for a whole 6 minutes, an incredibly long time compared to most other earthquakes. However, the largest amount of destruction was not to come from the earthquake itself, but the massive tsunamis that were immediately triggered by it. On the Tohoku Peninsula, closest to the epicenter, waves were observed to be up to 40 meters in height, or over 130 feet, some of the most massive ever documented from seismic activity. In some places, the waves moved up to 6 miles inland, flooding towns, cities, plains, and ports, with massive amounts of muddy debris-filled water. The sheer force of the tsunami ripped apart solid structures like no other tsunami had done before. It is truly terrifying to observe the incredible force of these massive waves that struck the Japanese coast. Take a look.
早速避難がしている人がいたので、その方たちの撮影に向かいながら一緒に、避難道路に向かいました。
避難して山の方に高台に上がっていく道路があるわけですね。そしてこれ津波が襲ったのはだいたい揺れてから何分後ぐらいですか
？30分はかかっていないかな。
30分かかっていない、だいたい3時10分前後なんでしょうか。
人たちの姿も確認できました。
ああ、そうですか。ほとんどこれを見ていますと木造の家屋はもうひとたまりもなく、そして鉄筋の建物だけが残っている。避難している子どもたち。
To add to the terror of the day, the Fukushima nuclear power plant, located within the Tohoku region, took a direct hit from some of the largest tsunami swells generated by the tsunami, which caused major internal damage to the backup power generators that make sure the nuclear material from the reactor is properly cooled. Due to the cooling system being critically damaged, the Fukushima reactor began to melt down, with insufficient failsafes to prevent catastrophe. This caused the reactors to melt down a total of 3 times over the 3 days following the tsunami, spewing radioactive material into the air and into the ocean. Though no deaths have yet to be directly attributed to the meltdown, 1,500 seniors were said to have died due to the poor evacuation strategies administered by the plant. Take a look at the moment the tsunami hit the plant and subsequent explosions that were observed.
Teetering on what looks like a meltdown. After the quake and the tsunami, a blast at the Daiichi nuclear power plant in Fukushima. Its sheer power plain to see.
Well, experts are warning that radiation levels now are rising at the Fukushima nuclear plant. And there is a high risk, they are saying, of a leak if the situation isn't resolved in the next few hours.
4:36 p.m. we've received a report that the water cannot be pumped, and we are currently working on how to obtain enough electricity so that the water can...
Nearly 16,000 people lost their lives in the tsunami, with an additional 6,000 injured and 2,500 missing. It is tragedies such as these that remind us of how powerless we can be in the face of Mother Nature's fury. While some of the tragedies could have been prevented, such as the Fukushima meltdown, there is so little anyone can do when a tsunami does strike. Perhaps there is such a deep fascination with these kinds of disaster videos, so that we too can at least get a glimpse as to what it is to stare powerlessly into the face of death.